Okay, so I'll take you very quickly through what we've been doing because we've got a lot of interesting speakers today that looking forward to hearing from. So Irene and I set up an organisation called Nearly Wild. We've got our main core purpose is to find new ways of engaging people with the natural world and finding new solutions to supporting nature and the natural world. And we've found over, gosh, 20, 30 years of supporting all sorts of projects around the world that there's a number of key features in all of them to be successful, and that's what we focused on. The first is that projects need to consider scale and not just be a number of integrated individual small elements or lots of individual organizations projects coming together. They need to work with and through people. They need to work with genuine engagement, and they need to be underpinned, to be more sustainable. They actually need to be underpinned by business and trading and enterprise, so that the economy is supporting a more natural system. We've set up really to provide support as a do and see, so not just consulting, but actually getting involved in delivery, providing resources and training, action research, and finding new solutions, of which one of the ones that some of you know we set up is Nearly Wild Camping. I'm not expecting you to read all of this. These slides will be available on all the links after the event. Basically what we've been doing in Powys with support from Arwain, which is the European leader funding in Powys, is we've been trying to understand what nature-friendly businesses actually means in Powys, who they are. There's a phrase used often called nature-based businesses. And we've been trying to untangle the terminology a little bit, understand more what it means. We've been mapping out who's there, how many there are, what sorts of businesses they are, as well as looking at the economy and how the economy actually works in terms of the nature-friendly businesses. And from that, starting to understand what are some of the opportunities and challenges, and how we can do more for. I call it a sector is probably a broad term. It's more than a sector. It's a way of working and a way of thinking. I can see now this is going to get in the way. There we go. So, goodness me, there we go. So what have we learned? I mean, there's no way I can possibly cover everything we've learned in this, but just to give you a quick flavour, there's a huge number of nature-friendly businesses in Powys doing a wide variety of things. I think what's really important to understand is they're not all full-time. So there's lots of part-time, there's lots of people doing it with a passion who are doing it alongside either a full-time job, alongside their farming, or as part of their farming, or as something that fits in with other areas of their personal interest. There are also obviously some that are running fairly big, fairly successful businesses, employing a number of employees. So it's a broad mix, but I think the important thing is to understand we shouldn't forget the micros. There's multiple dimensions. I mean, we've come over 80 different types of business that have a nature benefit in the way they're run. And a lot of it comes down to how they do as well as what they do. As I say, many businesses are micro. They're important in the local economy. There's a lot in here about economic resilience. I think also there's a complexity in here that a lot of organizations also trade. So we've started to use the word enterprise because it covers the whole breadth of people who are earning some income through trading, and in a way that has a benefit to the natural world and to nature. It could be, and we believe it, what's emerging is looking at this as a sector more could be a really important part of looking at the green economy in Wales as a whole. And certainly Mid Wales has got an absolute plethora of these types of businesses that could be doing a lot more by working together. It's hard to get a right definition. I won't go into that endlessly here, but broadly speaking, a business that actively works to benefit nature in the way it runs its business, as the ones that we've been looking at and taking seriously and counting, if you like. And as I say, that's a pretty broad spectrum. There's a lot of opportunity for more joint work, And I think organizations and the third sector and public sector need to start taking this nature-based trading, nature-friendly trading a lot more seriously, and thinking a lot more about how they're working with businesses. And putting it very crudely, just think about how many people are employed within the third sector in Wales working with nature, and think about how many people are employed in small and micro businesses working for the benefit of nature. I think you'll find that the number working in what is often called the private sector, and I think that can be confusing, is actually really quite significant. Okay, I'll leave it there and switch off my shared screen.
Wonderful, thank you very much. So that gives you a little bit of a picture of what it is that we've been doing and what has been happening to bring us all here together today. What we'd like to do now is to start what we call these 60-second pitches. So for everybody to literally have 60 seconds to tell us a little bit. Initially, we'd like to start with the businesses. Nicholas is going to run this for us. So what he will do is he will work round his screen. He'll call your name out, and then we'd like you to unmute yourself and then tell us a little bit about what your business is, where you're based, what it is that you do, and what it is that you think, in what way you think your business benefits nature. I'm sorry we're asking you all to be so brief, but we think it's really important that everybody can get a picture of who else is here, and that in itself I think is part of the learning that we get. You'll be pleased to hear that I do have my timer with me, so if you start to go over, I will let you know. Good luck, everybody. Looking forward to hearing from you.
Okay, I hope that everybody's ready and that this isn't going to be a shock for the first person who's called. As Irene said, she will let you know when you're getting to the minute time. Don't let it put you off. Finish off what it is that you want to say, and then I'll move on to the next person. So, Rupert, could you please start, if you wouldn't mind unmuting yourself and going first?
Right, hello, hopefully you can all hear me. My name's Rupert Locke. I'm Director of Feral Science, and I use bushcraft and other outdoor skills to reconstruct secondary science teaching, allowing it to be delivered through outdoor learning. There's a bit of an assumption about teaching science that the skills required require a lab, textbook, glassware, equipment, and all of that stuff. But it's much more of an approach that starts with a question and then tries to come up with a way of answering it with data. And there's not really any reason why this has to be inside. I set up Feral Science 2 years ago with the aim to provide curriculum outcomes, but using bushcraft and other outdoor skills like navigation to illustrate and draw out the objectives. Up until the pandemic, I was working in schools, but since then, I've been creating a series of lesson plans and teaching resources to allow school science departments and outdoor learning practitioners to teach science outside, and these will become available as we overhaul and relaunch the website. These resources have been developed with direct reference to the various science syllabuses and include required practicals at GCSE. In addition to this, we offer CPD training in the delivery of the resources and the techniques to support them so that schools can work with the assurance that they can actually use their outdoor learning time effectively.
Time's up, Rupert.
Done, thank you, yeah. Cool,
thank you.
End of the sentence.
Okay, Rupert, if you could please mute yourself, and Louise Peterson,
thank you very much.
You please come on.
Hi there. I'm unmuted. Hi, I'm based in the Dovey Valley and I run Dovey Donkeys. We're a two-branch organisation. So I have Dovey Donkey Wood here, which is an interactive, an immersive interactive experience, both aimed at the tourist industry, but also at local people as well, so they can come and interact with donkeys in a wild, free environment. There's no barriers, no fences, no gates, and it's about improving mental, physical and emotional well-being. We also run EAQ Dovey Donkeys, which is an educational, so equine assisted learning centre. We work with children and adults right across the board, helping them with personal development, academic development. So a little bit of what Rupert's doing, but not quite the same scale. We tend to work with younger children rather than the GCSE level. And we also take donkeys into schools The whole site here, we have 45 acres, and we try to work it on a sustainable basis. At the moment, we're encouraging local groups to come onto site when we can. So we're starting to build that programme and do some environmental and management work on the land here.
Time's
So,
up.
thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Louise. If you please mute yourself. Hannah, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, did you say Hannah?
Yes, please.
Oh, hi. I am based near Llanidloes and I'm self-employed, but I work two main things that are nature related at the moment. One is I work through the Woodland Trust and Waterloo Foundation to support farmers and landowners in Mid Wales who are trying to improve habitats on their land and to prepare for what comes after Brexit in terms of farm support. So getting them more ready for benefiting from any schemes that are supporting the delivery of public and environmental benefits. And the other thing is I'm working with a small group called Cedar Agroforestry, who are developing what we're calling 21st century agroforestry systems based around a plant called Cedar hermaphrodita, which is very high protein, so can replace soya imports, and also produces more biomass than willow, which is then going to be used in producing biochar for going into animal feed, slurry, and building materials.
Wonderful. Thank you. Time's up.
Thank you, Hannah. Would you please mute yourself? And Fran, if you could please go next.
Okay, hi, I'm Fran Blockley. My family farms near Llanidloes. We've got 120 acres, which we farm organically, and it's more like a nature reserve than a farm. We've created lots of different habitats. And we sell beef, hogget, and do a bit of tourism. And a couple of projects I want to talk about. One is developing a primitive skills centre where archaeologists as well as farmers, and we're trying to develop a primitive skills centre. And the second thing, our latest project, is trying to bring some of what we do into the heart of the town, and we're creating a green hub there, hopefully to start networking with lots of different organisations that are involved in increasing the biodiversity of the land locally.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Fran. If you would please mute yourself, and then if we can turn to Nicola next, please.
Hi, I'm Nicola. I run Specklewood Wildlife with my husband, Rupert Perkins. We're based in Pontypool, been running since January 2020. We're informal, accessible and friendly, and the specialists in birds, butterflies, moths, dragonflies, orchids and marine life. So what makes us unique? We want to inspire others to develop a greater understanding and awareness of the world around them. We want to be accessible cost-wise and welcoming to families, which is quite different than a lot of other nature tour operators. We operate as tour guides as well, which gives people the option to book their own accommodation and travel to suit their own budgets. We only use our own photos and videos, have a substantial collection. Our passion is delivering field-based days and travel, but at the moment we're mainly stuck on Zoom delivery. We're very active on social media, have a nature blog, do watercolours of butterflies and birds, and longer term we're looking to potentially do some products and gifts based on those. Why do we love Wales? Because it has a fantastic diversity of wildlife and rich habitats and good transport links to some of the key species. Plus there's 2 endemics on Great Orme and the subspecies of fen orchid. And what are we looking to do? We're looking to forge links with businesses with similar values to us, and we're looking to work with place-based businesses that have wildlife on their doorstep.
Wonderful.
Thank you very much. Stuart, if you would go next, please.
Good morning. I work for Open Newtown. We're a community enterprise organisation who took on 130 acres of green spaces in Newtown to increase the biodiversity, to have improvements for the public use. We've been working with local organisations such as having cycles, but also national organisations such as Sport Wales to introduce activities in the area, such as a new mountain bike trail, a BMX pump track. Local town council have been very supportive, and we're getting close to starting work on a new riverside development building, which will have lots of opportunities for talks, possibly such as this, and in person maybe, with regards to biodiversity and sustainability. So we're looking forward to being able to invite people for your kind of do lectures, your TED Talk type events as well. But it's all about community space and trying to turn what was deemed to be a liability into an asset.
Wonderful, thank you.
Thank you very much. We can move to Ingrid next, please.
Hello, I'm nearly there. Right, hello. I didn't expect to speak, so it has to be off the cuff. I'm Ingrid Knowles. I'm the chair of the Oswestry Community Enterprise in Oswestry. And originally we tried to set up a community hub, the Regal Project, to give the Oswestry population a center place where they can meet and watch films and eat together. But at the moment that's not possible. We are not sure how this is going to be because of all the funding and complications with COVID. So the other idea, especially I had, is how can we get this triangle of local producers, nature-based, land-based producers, together with traders and consumers. How can we support the local economy with land-based products and use the local resources? So I'm trying to find allies, and I'm trying to find people who can give me advice on that and support this this movement. Otherwise, I'm running a clean business, which is also environmentally friendly as much as possible, and hopefully I can educate especially my staff through this to work with nature rather than chemicals.
Ingrid, thank you very much indeed. If you wouldn't mind muting yourself. Adele has just run off. Adele, are you still there? If not, yeah, she's coming back. Adele, are you ready to speak? You need to take yourself off mute.
Sorry, I thought I was doing mine at half past.
You're doing your 5-minute talk then. It's just if you want to have a little introduction to Brecon Beacon's foraging.
Yeah, okay.
You don't need to, don't worry about it.
Yeah, I don't really need to, I don't think. I think other people need to, it's so interesting.
Okay, lovely, thanks.
Okay, Zoe Powell, I apologise I didn't warn you off in the chat, but are you ready to go?
Yes, I am.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I'm Zoe. I started Y Lavender of Raider, planting a 1-acre field with nearly 3,000 lavender plugs back in 2009. I developed...
Come on, Jeff.
That's not from me, right. I developed my small rural business, which grew over the years, producing fresh and dried bunches, lavender bunches that is, and it developed to a more comprehensive setup with a lavender farm shop offering lavender cream teas. It became a tourist attraction. I offered talks and tours to promote the nature enhancing side of the business, particularly where the bees and the butterflies were concerned, and online sales. I am now retired from the business, but I'm more than happy to share my story for 12 years of a business I thoroughly enjoyed, and I think gave a lot of other people enjoyment too. Thank you.
Thank you, Zoe. Could we now move to Jim Langley, please?
Good morning, everybody.
Jim Langley. I am an international mountain leader and an ecologist, and I combine both of these to run environmental training and a guiding company called Nature's Work. And I'm based up in Bangor in North Wales, so right on the edge of Snowdonia National Park. My main focus through my training events is to broaden learning and understanding about our natural world by bringing people closer to nature. I've also developed a range of educational playing cards packed with information and facts which aid learning, but also to ensure it's done in a kind of fun and interactive way. So my approach is very much about engaging people with the natural world, but trying to make it fun and approachable. My website's got lots of information with downloadable resources, which are curriculum based, but I've also got the non-curriculum side of what I do. But it's all about promoting outdoor learning and learning outside the classroom and making nature accessible. And I've got a 5-minute talk about what I've done the last 12 months coming up. So I'll finish there.
Thank you very much. Hazel, would you like to go next?
Hi there, I'm Hazel Osborne, originally Maddox. I'm from Llanidloes, which is in mid Wales. I'm a nature-based therapist and have been an artist for most of my career. I work with kids and adults therapeutically. It's a talking therapy, but involving arts and wildcrafting as a way into connecting to self and other and care for nature, using play and ancient craft work, which I'm developing new interests all the time. I'm quite a new developing business because I've been an arts practitioner for 20 years, but that is coming with me, and I'm a very collaborative practitioner, so I work with lots of different people, some of which are here, which is really nice to see, and I didn't know. And I think that's all I've got to say, but it's lovely to be here and see you all, and it's very exciting.
Hazel, thank you very much indeed. James, would you like to take over?
Hi, everybody. Nice, thanks for putting this on, by the way. Nice to see lots of folks from all over the place. I'm James, and it's my partner Lee as well, from Woodland Classroom, and we're in North East Wales, delivering stuff in Wrexham and Flintshire, but we also travel all about as well, doing all kinds of stuff. And we do nature education, so we do nature connection, bushcraft, wild food foraging, forest school, and well-being in the woods, because my partner's a counsellor and does nature therapy as well, Hazel, so that's really interesting. Well, we usually do that, of course, but there's been a lockdown, so we've been running stuff online, doing monthly online wild food workshops, and we've created an online tree ID course as well, so having to adapt. So it's good to see what everyone else is doing and what's going on in Wales and get some inspiration and make some connections. So yeah, looking forward to soaking it all in today.
Thank you very much, James. And Naomi, would you like to take over, please?
Hey, lovely. Hi, everyone. I'm Naomi. I am a part-time ecologist and natural history buff based in Aberystwyth. So I've worked with the RSPB and the Wildlife Trusts in the past, and I've just begun my new business, Nate on Naomi, which is providing bespoke wildlife action plans for individuals and businesses who want to rewild their land, but have no idea where to start. So we're looking at things from the sizes of gardens to land with mixed habitat. I provide a plan after a site visit, focusing on habitat management, rewilding, general biodiversity, but also species surveys if folks are interested. And then also providing outdoor field skills training, so a bit of bird watching or mammal skills for those who want to just get involved with nature a little bit more. So that's what I do.
Thank you very much. Now over to Andy.
Good, yeah, good morning from St David's down the coast down here. So Andy Middleton, I've got lots of different hats, but I'll talk about two of them in this 1 minute. One of them is a new business I'm part of called North Star Transition, which is a global business bringing together practitioners to try and affect large-scale system change. We're running a project within that called Wales Transition Lab, where we've brought together health directors, NGOs, farmers, growers, conservationists to ask the question, what does it look like when you properly scale up the response to food, nature, and health in a different way. So I'll be talking about that in a 5-minute slot later on. And my other business, which has been going for 35 years, is TYF, which is an adventure and education business. We've taken around about 200,000 young people to play in nature over that time. And there's a bunch of things we're working on, including setting up a new B Corp school to take real-world challenges about shaping the future into schools. We have an ethical retail business in St David's. Just got funding from Welsh Government to set up a planetary repair centre, teaching people around circular economy and upcycling. We're developing a movement, mind and ecology programme with Schumacher College that we're basically be starting later this year. We consult to big corporate businesses on sustainability strategies, so working with multi-billion-pound businesses on that. And again, Nature Connections is a huge part of that work. And we run a programme called Wave Makers to connect people to nature, but to turn them into activists, not just people who care. Thank you.
Okay, sorry, Rob, I didn't warn you off about this, but Rob Bullen, can you please go next?
Hi, good morning, everyone. Yeah, I'm Rob Bullen, the Visitor Marketing and Business Development Manager at the Centre for Alternative Technology. We're based in the UNESCO W Biosphere, which I'll talk about in just a second. I'm an environmental education centre inspiring people to take positive action towards the climate and biodiversity emergency. Engage lots of different audiences through our short course programme, our graduate school for the environment, our visitor centre. We run lots of tourism related experiences and have recently started doing online short courses and webinars. And also our Zero Carbon Britain Hub and Innovation Lab is starting to engage local authorities and community groups to take positive action towards climate emergency. From the biosphere perspective, the DBTA, which is the Tourism Association, is basically trying to join up the dots to bring businesses together to try and create a brand and destination for the biosphere, which will hopefully help us, create something really exciting for the time ahead to help us recover from, the recent crisis in tourism. And really excited to try and join the dots together with the businesses and projects to help tell our story.
Thank you very much. Lewis, would you like to tell us about you?
Good morning, everyone. So my name's Lewis Phillips. I am the owner of Wings of Wales. We are a conservation-led bird of prey organisation based in the Brecon Beacons, where we fly a number of birds from white-tailed eagles to vultures. We have about 6,000 acres that we fly them on. I'm also a professional wildlife photographer and wildlife journalist, and I'm leading a very big project in the Brecon Beacons, where we hope to build a large visitor centre or wildlife park. So our institution is called WCCOE, which stands for Welsh Conservation Centre of Excellence. We are networking with a number of leading organisations on species breeding, and what we hope to be doing in the future is to be reintroducing native species back into Wales, along with managing managing the environment locally and internationally with vulture projects and so on. So yeah.
Thank you very much. Rachel, would you like to say something?
Hi, I'm Rachel Lewis. I am one of the leader animators. As Steve explained at the start, Irene and Steve approached us for funding. So basically my role is just to monitor the project and make sure that they reach their outcomes that they hope to achieve at the start.
Okay, thank you.
Please everybody be very nice to her because she's monitoring us.
Okay, I think that we've gone through all of the businesses. We now need to move on to the organisations, unless Irene, you think that I've missed anybody, or if there is anybody out there that would like to say anything before we move on to the few organisations that we've got.
I think Glenn and Dan still haven't spoken.
Okay. Glenn and Dan, do you feel that you haven't?
Yeah, I was just staying quiet on that one. I'm Glenn Lloyd. I'm from Gate Farm in Llandyssil, Mid Wales. I'm an organic dairy farmer, and I've also started a new business this last 12 months called Daisy Bank Dairy, which is selling our organic on-farm milk in various vending machines in the locality. We converted to organic in 2014, inherited from my father and his father before that. Gone from quite an intensive system, and we've just pulled things back and gone the organic way. We look very hard at farm biodiversity, new ways and new technology that we can bring to the farm to save energy and things like water harvesting. Just trying to think now. We've been, so with the key on grass-fed milk to the cows. Sorry, phone's ringing. Key on having grass-fed milk for the cows. We work closely with the Seven Rivers Trust, and we're in a few groups that we regularly walk farms. We weren't able to last year. Involved in a group called Upper Seven Carbon Farmers, looking at increasing carbon in our soils and utilising that carbon to grow grass organically, and looking at all sorts of things like that. As far as the dairy, the Daisy Bank dairy is concerned, we'll talk about it more later, but it was more of the fact that we were doing all these good things on farm, but a lot of our product is being exported either from the locality or even into other countries. So I wanted to bring it back and be able to tell our story locally, and put a brand to what we're doing, to make it commercially viable on what we're doing. That's it for now. I've got to do the 5 minute speak later.
Thank you, Glenn. Dan, would you like to go?
First of all, I love Daisy Bank Dairies. Fantastic idea, milk vending. I've got 5 minutes as well later, so I'll just keep it short. My name's Dan Munford. Good morning, everybody. I'm in Clanrider and Mochnant. I spent 25 years in the food industry. I'm involved with 3 businesses in events, consulting and publishing, all in the food industry. They're small businesses, but we work globally. I think I'll talk about the businesses more later, and I've got some slides, but I think I'd just say I have a personal interest in watching, as you've well sum it up, nature-friendly businesses develop. I love the way you're capturing a whole range of different businesses under that, and I just have a personal interest in particularly seeing small food businesses grow. I mean, I can see globally a big opportunity for these businesses because it's very much what the consumer wants, and there's an unfulfilled need there. So I'm really looking at this from a personal perspective, and obviously just interested to meet a few people. But I'll be talking a bit more about the business later.
Thanks, Dan. Catherine, would you like to say something?
Good morning. So we run an enterprise, social enterprise called Snowdonia Active, and we've been operating for 20 years. So whilst the name is Snowdonia, over that time we've expanded into wider areas of Wales, and we run a range of projects that aim to enhance the sustainable development of the tourism and also outdoor participation. There's quickly 3 projects that we've been running that'd be of interest. So the Environmental Charter, which is a project that inspires instructors and facilitators to be more environmentally responsible through resources and training. We run a project called Baby Active, which helps parents to be outdoors with their babies from the day they're born, and through nature walks, baby forest school sessions, that sort of thing. And then we're also running a tourism project called Curious Cymru, which is working with businesses, which is why it's really interesting to hear of some today, to help people get their kind of product to market through the Airbnb experience platform. And we're particularly working with nature-based businesses to kind of demonstrate that offer in Wales. So be interested in picking up that with people after this meeting today.
Thank you very much. Mark, is that you, Living Tree Houses? You need to come off mute, sir.
I'm off mute. Sorry about that. Hello, everybody. I've just joined, so I'm not. I guess we're just going around saying hello and telling folks what we're
It's the
doing.
60-second pitch. 60 seconds.
Okay, right. I'm from Living Room Tree Houses, and we run treehouse experiences. So we're based near Machynlleth, and we offer self-catering holidays high up in the trees. And I think we were the first treehouse, tree houses that you could stay in the UK, and it's kind of a passion project for us, and we'd love to have you to stay next time you fancy a holiday.
Thank you very much, Mark. Sean, would you like to talk about Bardsey?
Hello everybody, bore da, Sean Stacey in a very sunny Aberystwyth this morning. I'm chatting later about my work with Summit to Sea, but I thought I'd jump on and just talk about Barziane Trust, which I'm chair of. I was warden there a few years ago, and we're currently kind of transitioning the trust into a charity, but a business that is more sustainable and is helping to create an exemplar of island life, which has a thriving community, ecology and economy, and trying to support the existing nature-friendly farming that's going on there, the sustainable fisheries around the coastline, and make the experience, which is just incredible, even better for our visitors. So yeah, I'll chat a bit later about Summit to Sea. Diolch.
Thank you very much. I think that's all of the businesses that we have here. If I've missed anybody, then please come up to me on the chat, and I'll introduce you in a minute. But now we're going to move on to the organisations that we have here. So Gwenan, could you please talk for a minute on yourself?
Hi, I'm Gwenan. I'm the estate assistant for the Elan Valley Trust. So we manage the trust really through conservation, through farming, and natural heritage projects. So I'm just here to get a bit more understanding and see what other people do in Mid Wales as well.
Thank you very much. I apologise to Ian. I missed him out just now. Ian, would you mind coming in quickly?
Hello, everyone. Thanks a lot for sneaking me in at the end. Appreciate that. My name's Ian Still. I'm from Trevlock Farm. I operate a 100-acre hillside farm just outside Oswestry on the border with North Wales. It's been in the family since 1904. I'm the 4th generation to farm here. But when I grew up, I didn't want to be a farmer. It really wasn't for me. My dad was a dairy farmer, and it really didn't suit the landscape that we were farming in. We've got a diverse set of landscapes and environments on the farm. Upland, permanent pasture, wetland, ancient woodland, improved grassland, and a little bit of no-till arable as well. The primary focus of the farm is to grow food, build soil, and clean the water that passes through our landscape. But we also, to be financially sustainable, run a couple of other money-making businesses as well. We have an on-farm butchery and bakery, so we process our own meat and make pies that we sell locally and regionally. And then we also have a community-focused business where we provide horticultural projects for young adults with behavioural issues. We do that through the CIC that works in collaboration with the two businesses, the food business and the farm business as well. And I'll be talking more about those in a 5-minute presentation later. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Linda, would you like to tell us about yourself and your organisation?
While Linda's finding herself, just to say that from the when you're talking as organisations, if you could sort of explain what it is that your organisation has in these sorts of businesses that are benefiting nature, that would be really helpful.
Sorry, I have come off mute now. Hi, I'm Linda Ashton and I work for Natural Resources Wales. I work on what we call the area statement for North West Wales, which is north of the Dyfi, going up to Anglesey and Bangor area and Conwy. I'm going to be working with Irene and Steve on a small project. So they're looking at nature-friendly businesses within the Conwy Valley. But I also live in Mid Wales, where I've got a small farm as well. So, and we try to farm in a nature-friendly way. So it's been really interesting to hear everyone today.
Thank you very much. Laura, can I bring you in next, please?
Morning, everyone. Hello, I'm from Coed Cadw, the Woodland Trust in Wales.
So we have a number of our own woods that we protect and restore, but we also have about 20 staff and many volunteers throughout Wales working with landowners and communities as well. Our idea is to promote native trees for woods and for people. And we do this in a number of ways. We can supply trees to communities and schools. We support landowners to plant trees or hedges, protect ancient trees and restore ancient woodland on their own land. We work with others like community champions, as in Llanidloes we're doing a scheme at the moment, or people like Llais y Goedwig or Snowdonia National Park, to think about trees at a landscape scale and work with established groups already in the community. My role particularly is to focus in mid to north West Wales and therefore look at supporting everybody in that area as much as we can to think about habitat restoration and more trees in the landscape.
Thank you very much. Sean, would you like to talk about Summit to Sea?
I can do, yeah. Well, actually, I'll save the time and I'll just talk about it later when I come into my 5 minutes. So I've saved you a bit of time for someone else to share their interesting stories about.
Okay, thank you. Alan, I haven't given you any warning on this, but would you like to tell us about yourself and your organisation?
Hello, everybody. It's Alan Davis from Powys County Council. I'm based within the Council's regeneration team. I'm an economic development officer. Really, what our team's engaged in is regeneration projects, which Arwain is part of, and business support. So it's providing links to help businesses, particularly during what are difficult times at the moment. We're involved with developing the Mid Wales Growth Deal, which will bring in a 10-year investment program across Powys and Ceredigion. We're also involved in the delivery of the Mid Wales Targeted Regeneration Investment Programme, which is a large investment programme delivered via Welsh Government. We're also involved with delivery of COVID support. We link businesses up to the support that's available out there, and shortly we'll be working on the proposals for a recovery fund. We're also heavily involved with the rollout of broadband across Powys. Welsh Government are the principal partners, but the council's involved in developing community broadband schemes. One other thing that we're also involved in, which may be helpful, we help to develop local community and local place plans, which basically help communities to identify their regeneration needs over a set period of time. And the plans are useful in being used as evidence for levering funding from people like National Lottery and so forth. So that's a quick snapshot, really, of what we cover. One or two things that I've left out, and thank you for inviting me along today. I'm certainly interested to hear what the speakers have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Over to Howard Davis now, please.
Thank you, Nicholas, and good morning, everyone. My name. Sorry, I'll just wait for Hannah to go back on mute. Thank you, Nicholas, and good morning, everyone. My name is Howard Davis, and I run the National Association for AONBs. We're an umbrella charity that look out for the interests of the 46 areas of outstanding natural beauty in England, Wales, and Northern Ireland. Together, these areas cover about 8,000 square miles of some of the most important landscapes in the UK, landscapes that are almost entirely dependent on nature-based industry in some shape or form. We lead and support a network of 300 people and about 700 elected members who look after these locally valued, nationally important landscapes. The national team works from home all over the UK, and I live in the Ceiriog Valley, but I'll talk more about the organisation a little bit later on. Thanks, Nicholas.
Thank you, Howard. The only person left on my list now is Sarah. Sarah, unfortunately, is having some issues with her microphone. Sarah's from Rewilding Britain. I don't know if Steve or Irene would like to say anything about them.
I could very quickly say something. I mean, basically, Rewilding Britain are setting up a network for sharing learning between projects that are looking at variations of rewilding. I know it's quite a loaded term, so I'm not going to get into that right now, but the network itself is a way of sharing and trying to understand the nuances and develop the learning so that it can, as a movement, be more appropriate and fit for purpose. That's probably enough. Peter at CAT, I think, as well.
Hi, Steve. Yeah, Rob Bullen has done the CAT piece on my behalf, so I don't think it's fair that we get 2 goes.
Councillor Powell, would you like to say anything?
Oh, hi. No, I'm just representing Brecon Town Council. I'm also involved with a couple of community groups around Brecon, Plan Brecon, and we're trying to start up a men's shed and various initiatives. So just interested to see what's happening, and we'll listen in and see if there's anything that will be useful for the local community to signpost people. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to keep quiet for a bit now. Over to you, Irene.
Wonderful. Blimey, what a variety. Thank you, everybody, for being so brief, so timely. I know it's very difficult to describe everything in such a short time. What we did think was, before we went on to anything else, that if anybody had any questions or any thoughts, that we could take a few of those at this point. So if you do have anything that you would like to say, you'll remember we talked about the raise hand thing. So if you were able to do that, if you've got anything you'd like to say, please do.
Or alternatively, if you fail to raise a hand, then just stick it into the chat and we'll look to bring you in there from there as well.
We've obviously stunned you all into silence. I mean, if nobody has it, oh, yes, Hazel's. Hazel, what did you have in your mind?
One, I was wondering, I mean, I'm sure you're creating all kinds of directories and whatnot. I was just wondering if people might be open to sharing each other's contacts, because, you know, it's lovely to hear what everybody's doing, and there's lots of interesting, you know, things popping up in my head, and I'm just wondering, are we going to be able to share each other's contracts and perhaps a little synopsis of name and you know, organisation, or something like that could be really useful if possible.
Steve, do you want to just talk a little bit about our locator?
Yeah, I can say a little bit. I'm just going to mention a bit more about this at the end, but for those of you who are interested, a number of the people who are here, I've already done YouTube interviews in some depth, so there's links from that on our on the Nearly Wild Resources page. But we're, after this event, going to be spending some time trying to really pull together the resources that we've been building over the course of the year and make sure that's very easy for people to find. So that's kind of the next push of what we're doing. Meanwhile, we have now set up what we called a locator. So as you say, a kind of directory, which anybody can enter themselves on completely free. You can put all the details of your business, what you do. You can link videos, you can link other materials. So that's now live. And if you go on the I'm afraid at the moment, it's easiest way of finding it is go on the Nearly Wild website. And on the front, you'll see under our news item, Locator just launched. You can click on there, and then you can literally enter your details. And the point of that is partly that obviously people here can all share with one another, but also that you can we can then promote it more to the wider public and actually let them know about all the businesses that are doing good stuff. So it's got a double benefit. And the final thing I'll mention all this again at the end, is there is also now a Facebook group, but we are looking at setting up an off Facebook group, if that makes sense, just because I'm fed up with the bloody algorithms on Facebook, to be honest. Drive me crazy. They're very manipulative. So we thought if we have a private space, it will be much easier for people to genuinely share.
I think there's something really potentially positive about networking. You know, what we need to do is work out the best way that we can really actively do it. So this sort of community thing offline, which is the one off Facebook, might be a good one to trial. Any other questions or comments at this point? I'm not seeing anybody. In which case, can I suggest that we move on? What we're going to do is, this is the bit where we do the audience participation, or at least we're going to try the audience participation. I'm going to hand over to Nicholas, who is going to explain this to you.
Okay, everybody, we're going to use something called Mentimeter. Within Mentimeter, then there's a subsection called menti.com. So if you could possibly open up either on another device, open up a tab, or on your computer or laptop, open up a tab and type into that menti.com. That should bring you to a screen which asks you to enter a code. If you could then enter the code, which is shown at the top of my screen here, so 3891335. 3891335. You'll then be offered a chance to enter in some of your comments that you'd like to make about what support from others would be most useful to us as nature-friendly businesses. Once you've typed in whatever it is that you want to say, then hit submit, and it should start showing on my screen. There we go. Okay, I don't feel that you're limited to just one or two things here. Keep on going. The screen will roll as we get more. And while we're going on this, as we're entering it, as you guys are entering in your information, Jim, if you want to get ready, I'm going to be calling on you to start your presentation shortly. Jim, you should have just been made a co-host for the purpose of this, so you should be able to share your screen if you want to. Not yet, though.
No, I'm still unable to share it.
Still?
I'm in.
Good. Jim, could I ask you just to stop sharing your screen just for a second until we finish the...
It wouldn't be a successful Zoom event if we didn't have a few technical glitches.
"30 people have contributed so far out of 37 of us on the event.
I think that's wonderful. Well, I think let's move on at this point. The important thing for people to know is that we keep all of this information and we can share this with you afterwards. Steve, do you want to just sort of introduce our series of 5-minute talks?
Yes, thank you. So, yeah, the next bit is, as I really just said, a bunch of 5-minute talks. So what we've done is there's so many different types of business out there and doing some really interesting stuff that it was very difficult to decide the best way of structuring this next bit. So what I did is focused in on some of the topics that were coming up in the discussions I've been having with people that were either pertinent to the development of nature-friendly businesses or were issues and things that people were struggling with, or helped to show some of the opportunities that might be around. So to give you an example, part of it is about the fact that if we thought more collectively about how we package things up, the presentation to the buyer would be potentially a lot more positive. It'd be much easier for the buyers to find things, and therefore we'd actually benefit nature, because obviously the businesses that are benefiting nature are flourishing, therefore the nature gets to benefit instead of the businesses that aren't particularly good for nature. Things like the supply chains, thinking about supply chains and how they work, not getting tied up inside your own little domain, but thinking a little bit more about the breadth, and getting organizations thinking more about how they're purchasing and effecting, because actually in Wales, the procurement by organizations, and I include charities and community organizations in this, is pretty significant in terms of the market. And if that isn't being taken seriously, then obviously it's great to have grandiose aims, but you're not going to be able to deliver them if you're not actually working with the businesses that are helping support. So that's something that's sort of been developing. So there's a number of themes coming out. And so the speakers that we've chosen hopefully will give an insight into some of the topic areas that have been emerging. And then I'll talk a little bit more at the end of this event about some of the things that we hope we'll be able to then further develop on some of the points that have been coming up. Thank you. Irene.
So yes, as I appear to be the time monitor on this event, all I'd like to say at this point is that we've asked all of the speakers to run for 5 minutes. When you get to the 5-minute point, if you haven't yet stopped, guys, I'll let you know. But really looking forward to hearing it all.
Jim, please feel free to share your screen now.
How's that?
Perfect.
Perfect. Great. Thank you very much, Steve and Irene, for allowing me to talk for 5 minutes. I've worked with Steve over the years, and we've had many days on the mountain and talking about nature-based business and opportunities and things. So in the last 12 months, obviously, our lives have all changed quite significantly to working online. So this presentation just shows how I've adapted and what I do in terms of education and develop my nature-focused business of bringing people closer to nature. But when we've got this limited access to the natural world. So a little bit about me. Normally I'd be taking people walking in the mountains, running teacher training events, working with field studies students, primary students. It's all about engaging in the natural world and the outdoors. In the summer, I'm also working in the Alps as an international mountain leader. And I've got a passion for alpine flowers. So I've written a book recently on alpine flowers and ecology. So I'm working in the mountains as well. But I run professional development courses for outdoor professionals, getting them to see and explore, the beautiful mountain scenery at home. So I'm a member of Mountain Training, International Mountain Leader Association. And recently, I don't know if you've heard of Llysgenad, it's the Snowdonia Ambassador Scheme. I think there's another scheme in Wales as well. But that's something I did recently. It was a really interesting process. So the dilemma, we can't run our interactive courses that I'm so used to doing, where I can engage people by getting them close to nature, using little facilities, facilitated learning. So that has all disappeared. So the opportunity was to develop a range of talks, and I've done 3 series. I'm in the 3rd series at the moment. So they're all aspects of the natural world. online talks, and they range from geology to glaciation to trees, mosses. Steve gave a talk on wilding in the British uplands as well in the autumn. So I had this huge range, used a few speakers to come in to give some of the presentations, but it was how do you, aimed at the general public who just have a passion and an interest for walking the mountains, but how do you still manage to inspire and engage people with the natural world when we're all online? So just here's an example of an idea. So I would intersperse my talks with engaging kind of ideas to get people to look more closely at nature. So I don't know if many of you will probably know what that tree is from that image. Maybe this time of year, you may see the tiny little red flower and a catkin tree. So the catkins, these are aspects of that tree that often passes by. But it's the hook that really is how do we get people to engage with it? And it's often just like a quote or just something like, the fact that Nutella uses 52 cob nuts, per jar. Something like that might be something that people will remember that tree by. So I try and bring nature online. And this photo is the Cennin Pedard. This is the native Welsh daffodil in a location in North Wales in this hazelwood, the stamp hazelwood. So how do I then, I've developed this online presence, but I've also developed a range of kind of products to help people engage with nature in a kind of fun and engaging way. So I've developed top trump cards, and again, it's about accessing the natural world, and so even in the last year, I've developed a set of tree playing cards. So they kind of go hand in hand with the online presence, which has given me a good market. So I've certainly changed in the last 12 months because I've been forced to, not been able to lead groups, but having a few products and using the kind of online presence to bring about learning where people can be engaged with the natural world and be inspired to take a closer look, really. And that's my thrust, is that it's about education and how we engage, and it's the pedagogy of bringing nature to people. So I mean that's what inspires me to do what I do, and it's been really successful. I've got a course of a series of workshops at the moment, and I'm getting 80 or 90 people on each of them. So yeah, I've never dreamed of this 12 months ago. I'd much rather be out. I find them quite nerve-wracking, but it's just been quite a very interesting development in the last 12 months. And I don't know how long that is, Irene. That's about all I was going to say. So.
That's wonderful. Much appreciated. Yeah, you were pretty spot on there.
Superb. I will just stop share.
Thank you, Jim. Andy, you should have just been handed co-host. Are you ready to start?
Yeah, I'm not gonna use any slides today. I'll wax them through to you afterwards to do, because it's only for a couple of minutes. But I just want to share a couple of ideas about the things that I've been working on. And I guess the number one, I think, is to make sure that we're all aware that business isn't nature friendly. And to remind ourselves of the situation we're in, and that the state of nature is a consequence of the way we do business. And I spent 6 years on the board of NRW. Before that, I was on CCW. NRW used to issue licenses to thousands of businesses a year, tens of thousands of businesses a year, to pollute nature. Licenses are only needed from the regulators because those businesses are doing things that damage nature. So if we want to protect nature, if we do genuinely want nature-friendly business, the entire suite of environmental legislation needs to be rewritten, because it was never intended to create conditions in which nature or future generations would thrive. Just sit back. Okay, so none of the regulation was set with the intention of getting nature to thrive. The clothes that we wear, generally speaking, are not designed for nature. The banks you bank with, you know, I certainly hope every single person on this call banks with someone as good as Trier does, and that no one has a pension that's not invested in a green pension, as a for instance. But I guess so that the scale of action that we head towards, I think, is one thing for me that's really vital. Something that Howard and I have talked about often, and NRW and CCW before that, is the way that we respond as businesses to risk. And you know, and Jim particularly, you know, in the mountains, and many of the other of you understand that risk in the outdoors is keeping people safe, but the way we design businesses isn't designed to do the same. Because lots of people have low impact businesses, which is great, but those businesses tend to make low impact. And right now, when we're on course for a 2.7 rise in temperature, now is not the time to be creating slow impact. And when the businesses I'm working with, North Star Transition, has this amazing description of where we're at. And to imagine all of us and the thousands of organizations like us just in Wales are little spheres inside a giant plexiglass sphere. And they're see-through spheres. And everyone in those spheres can see that the big ball that we're in is rolling towards the edge of the cliff. And no one wants to go over the cliff. But what we are incapable of doing together is moving to the right or the left at the same time with the same energy to change the course of the bigger ball. And the challenge we've got is to work out how does not just this group, but how does this group as part of a system that involves health, government and everything else move fast enough in the right direction to nudge the big ball onto a different course whilst taking reality into account. And the challenge we have, for instance, is that the scale of shift that's happening is way faster than the change in people's thinking, as we know. So I guess the questions for me are to say, as businesses that care about nature, what is it we can do together, for instance, to make sure from a risk perspective that every single child in Wales is food literate before they leave school, understands the relationship between food and nature, food and health, food and gut, food and the economy. So how do we be dramatically more ambitious and deliver that in a distributed, loose but connected way to make sense of that? How do we make sure that every single elected member in the councils and communities that we sit is sufficiently literate about what's coming that they can make proper decisions rather than having no knowledge on that? And how do we ourselves get engaged in that space? And you know, some of the things that I've been working on that I think that I feel really encouraging, particularly is the world of B Corps. Some of you will have heard of B Corps. For me, it's one of the best. It's the best certification schemes I've yet come across to help define the things that make businesses be more business friendly. But I guess the big piece for me is that we need to recalibrate our ambition in relation to what we know is coming our way. And that means taking that full face of climate and biodiversity collapse, etc. And so what would an appropriate response look like if we were to work together across Wales in tandem and try and address the big issues? And whilst, no one's actually particularly been talking about lack of money today being a problem, but to give a sense of scale, some of you will be aware that the gross cost of mental health in Wales is £7.2 billion a year. So it's around about £2,800 per person every year is the total cost, is the gross cost of mental health. The avoidable cost of type 2 diabetes a year, just the avoidable cost, is 300 million quid a year. And so if we want to get serious about affecting nature, we need to, I believe, weave nature right into the heart of our health system and our food system in a radically different way that is much more ambitious, that's ambitious enough to inspire not just the politicians who make budget decisions, but the people who come out with this. And I think there's a second piece of language that we can potentially do together, which is to say, how do we step way beyond getting people to fall in love with nature? And that's what our job is at TYF. But I don't care, to be honest, whether people fall in love with nature. I want them to act as though they're falling in love with nature. Because it's the action that they take when they go back home as activist investors or shareholders or employees, they're all ones that count. Being in love with nature but taking no action doesn't kind of make the difference in terms of the scale that we want it to do. So it's fantastic to see, so, as well as familiar faces on the screen, but to see a bunch of new people whose businesses I didn't know existed. And I think if we start to get all of those into a safe central place where we can see each other, there is an opportunity to do something of significantly more gravitas. But right now, the outdoor sector, which is my kind of background, and most of the independent nature sector is unfortunately really not professionalized. So it means that if someone, so if public health wants to come and pick us up, it'd be like trying to pick up a bag of loose, it'd be like trying to pick up an armful of marbles. You can't do it. And if we want to have effect, we have to have a cohesiveness that allows organizations who want to affect change, get their arms around us together and move that forwards. Diolch yn fawr, thank you very much.
Thank you, Andy, much appreciated. Mark, you should have been made co-host, so if you'd like to, then you can share screen. You've just taken yourself off mute. You're obviously ready to go.
Yes, that's a hard act to follow, Andy. That's quite inspiring stuff. I have to really believe as a business owner that business does have a role and a function for benefiting for good, really, in the environment. I take totally what Andy says about the importance of the big issues and addressing them quickly and on a big scale. But small businesses, many of which are represented here, you know, on a micro level, are doing amazing things for the environment. My little business is a treehouse business. The woodland we're in would have been chopped down if we weren't there. We've demonstrated an economic sustainability by putting a business into the woodland that is completely benign for that woodland. I know this is a tiny level of endeavour, but we have saved the woodland, we've demonstrated economic viability, and we're enhancing that environment. So on a small level, the businesses that are here have the capacity for good. And I think although the parameters set up by the business world may seem a bit bleak, within that there's many businesses doing amazing things. And you know, I think we help mental health and we help spread the word about the environment. So, you know, businesses aren't de facto evil things, I think, you know. Anyway, I'm talking about marketing of businesses, which is or tourism related businesses. Our treehouse business is 10 years old. It's been full every night since it's opened, so we have 100% occupancy, which is quite unusual in the accommodation sector. And you know, I think it's a really exciting time for nature-based, particularly tourism businesses. Really, the market is predicted to explode over the next 5 years. We're perfectly placed in Wales to jump on the back of this huge interest in getting away from it all. You know, I think it's a very exciting time to be in nature-based tourism. So marketing, you know, I've been doing it 30 years. Generally, I think when you set up a business or when you've got a business, the passion quite often is totally in the product. You know, we love the tree houses. We put our heart and soul into building the things, and you may have a business similarly that, you know, it's a passion. What you've created is really where the excitement and the interest lies. Marketing is often, you know, considered by a business owner to be equivalent of doing the books or something. It's quite a grim, you know, it's a necessity. But for me, you know, marketing is where I kind of find my creativity. I think it's an art form and I absolutely love it. But what I do know after 30 years is that without effective marketing, your business will die. The whole thing flows from marketing. The money comes in, you can do whatever you like if you've got money coming in as a business. So it's all really about marketing. And even though it's kind of a bit of an unknown quantity to many people, it's, if you get it right, it's absolutely the core of any successful business. So there's a few things that I wanted to say really about marketing, and in 3 minutes that I've got left is going to be really basic stuff. But first of all, if you're considering how to successfully market your business, you've first got to work out what you're offering, really. You need a great product that you believe in. This all goes without saying, really. What I would recommend when you're deciding what to create as a business owner, don't copy other people, particularly if it's in tourism, particularly glamping where we are. It's innovation based. If you can see businesses building pods, don't buy their pods, because if they're involved, it's too late. If you know, you need to create something that's original, that fits in with the land that you've got, and that inspires you, because you're not going to inspire other people if you buy an off-the-shelf product and stick it in a field. So make sure your product, whatever it is, whether it's in glamping or whatever, is personal, innovative, exciting, and something you really believe in. Then think about, secondly, how to present what you've got. This is not just in glamping, but whatever your business is, you need to think how to package what you've got. And packaging something, I mean, in the olden days, tourism businesses used to advertise, and the strap line used to be something like, give us a ring and we'll have a chat about what you might like to do. And, we'll come to a conclusion together and give you a price. Nowadays, people, all they want, I think, is to buy an off-the-shelf product. It's all about experiences. And you, as the business owner, need to decide what you're selling. If someone buys a bag of sugar, the person selling, they've already packaged the sugar, and you take it off the shelf and go to the checkout with it. It's the same, really, with any form of interaction now, financial interaction nowadays. You need to package what you've got. So the tree houses, for example, we have, when you sell one thing, it's a treehouse experience. It starts on day 1, ends on day 3. You can't stay any longer. You can't stay any less time. It's just a 2-night stay. And it's got a fixed price throughout the year. And it's the same price arriving on a Wednesday in February as it is on a Friday in August. And we're 100% full all year. So if you've got something you want to sell, package it so that the person buying it doesn't have to think very much about it. You're the experts and you know what you're selling. So just package what you've got and offer it out for sale. Have a look around, see what the pricing should be. If you get that right, that's quite key. But make sure you just know what you're offering and you have a distinct thing that people can purchase. So those would be my 2 sort of top tips. And as far as marketing goes, I'll finish off by
for anything else.
Okay, that's it. As far as marketing goes, I would you can kill off a business really quickly by spending loads of money on marketing at the start, trying to find your market. I would suggest not spending any money on marketing at all when you start a business or when you're trying to sell something. Use agents that get commission if they sell something. So you've got no upfront costs. That's if it's a tourism product. And then the people will come to your fabulous place and they'll stay, and then sell them the idea of coming again, but booking directly. So filter people into your business without spending any money on marketing, using agents on a commission basis, and then get them back for repeat and referral business in future years. So that would be my top tip, I think, for marketing. But just be innovative with whatever you're trying to sell, package it well, and market it cleverly, and you'll have a really sustainable business that can hopefully do good to the nature that it's located within.
Thank you, Mark. Okay, we're going to move to Zoe now. Zoe, if you want to let me know when you want me to move forward on your slides.
Okay, right. Hello, everyone. I'll start now. I set up Y Lavender of Radar in Powys in 2009 with initial planting, and continued the planting in 2010. I saw there was a market for Welsh grown lavender, producing fresh and dried bunches for craft, home, weddings and culinary. It was slow to start, which was good, as the plants take 5 years to reach maturity. This gave me time to grow with the business, and I soon began to realise that there was more to lavender and people's love of it. In this time, I built a lavender drying and production shed, developed a website, Instagram page and Facebook page. I contacted potential wholesale clients and farm shops up and down the country. As the lavender plants grew stronger year on year, I was able to increase my yield and supply more customers. The wedding market was also proving to be very popular. Following our open day in 2013, I saw an opportunity to open to the public annually through July and August when the field was in bloom. And this led me to developing a small lavender farm shop selling a variety of lavender products and plants. Some I produced, others I bought from other local Welsh artisan producers, such as creams, balms, soaps, and essential oils. I also promoted cooking with lavender, as it is a member of the mint family, and it is a herb. And with that, I promoted it through the form of lavender cream teas, including lavender scones, biscuits, cupcakes, lavender and lemon sponge, and loose lavender, which I sold to other producers, chocolate makers, as you can see there up in North Wales. And she made a very nice lavender and lemon balm truffles there. The plant sales were also proving to be highly successful too. I invested in a small still and made my own hydrosol lavender water, which I sold in bottles as a mist spray. I updated my website then to incorporate an online shop, so sales continued for me then all year round. I took a stand at the Royal Welsh Show for the last 4 years. This proved to be very profitable and created a lot of awareness. I also benefited from TV and radio interviews, as well as high-profile magazine articles. Through the winter months, I gave talks to gardening clubs, WI groups, and many other societies that were interested in lavender. This proved successful as the groups then booked for the following summer for a group tour and tea. The field was also popular for photographic shoots. In 2020, I retired the business after 12 years of operation. I have to say I thoroughly enjoyed it. It gave me a good income and fitted in with my other interests and commitments. But the field and the management of it, weeding, pruning and cutting, which was all done by hand, was very labour intensive, and I was ready to quieten things down a little. So thank you for listening, and I hope you realise that the benefits of lavender also go beyond into nature, the bees and the butterflies, and I think I did my bit for the bee population as well. Thank you.
I apologise there, Zoe. I'm not sure that I actually managed to keep up with what it was that you're saying and that I showed all of your slides, but I'm sure that they'll be going up on the website later on. Ian, I know that I didn't give you a prompt, and again, I apologise for that as well, but are you ready to start? I'll just add you on as a co-presenter if I can find you. Ian, are you still here?
I am. I can't see. Am I a co-presenter? Has my slide come up?
Okay, you should be able to start now.
Can you see the slide?
Not yet.
Do I have to select something to accept?
Yeah, down at the bottom of the screen, you've got share screen.
Yes.
There we go. Click on that and then pick whichever one has got the right screen that you want to share.
Okay, how's that?
Perfect.
Okay, cool. Fantastic. Right, Irene, let me know when to start. Okay, cool. So thank you very much for inviting me in today. So I've got to quickly skip through the bit where I've already spoken in a minute. Basically, 100-acre farm in the hills outside north of Oswestry, on the border with North Wales. Used to be a dairy farm. I moved away, went to university, worked in construction for a few years while my dad was winding down and retiring. I moved back in 2006 because I wanted to change pace, because my dad was ill, lots of different family reasons. Also, I was looking for a new challenge. I didn't really want to be a farmer because of the way that industrial agriculture was forcing my family down a particular path. It didn't fit for what I wanted out of my life. It didn't seem to make my family very happy, definitely didn't make any money. And it didn't seem to be benefiting the landscape very much, not only on our farm, but also on other farms locally. So when I moved back, I knew I wanted to do something slightly different. Okay. We are a 100-acre farm, as I mentioned before, with a diverse range of habitats. So we've got a wetland. We border a wetland fen, managed by the Wildlife Trust, Shropshire Wildlife Trust. We've got ancient woodlands. We've got new woodlands that we've planted, that I've planted, my dad planted. We've got permanent pasture. We've got improved pasture ground. And recently I've converted the small amount of arable that we do have into no-till arable ground, which means that we don't plough. But because we farm organically, although we're not registered organic, we do farm as if we were. And so we don't use any herbicides, Roundup or anything. So what we do, we actually use animal intervention to replace the use of herbicides for clearing one crop and following into the next. And then using shallow tillage techniques, then we're able to break up any top pan ready for planting, or direct drilling grains into the farm, into the ground, ready to grow mixed grains, peas and barley, which we use to feed our outdoor pigs. So we've got a herd of 37 Hereford cattle, which are exclusively grass-fed, and we've also got our outdoor Tamworth pigs. We process both of those animals into our pies, which we make on site, and we distribute ourselves to local businesses and local retailers. And we are a local, so we've got people working for us in the butchery and the bakery, processing the meat and making delicious pies. We operate 3 businesses on Trevor Farm. There's the farm itself, which is centred on the animal management and the land conservation, infrastructure buildings and investments in projects. We've got the food business, which is tenant and rents buildings from the farm and space, and also is a fantastic customer for the farm, and pays a decent amount of money for the ingredients it buys from the farm to be making into food, and then it sells that food and pays the farm rent, which the farm uses then to reinvest back into projects. We then run the community business, where we run a number of different projects, both environmental and also community, working with a range of client groups, including young adults with behavioural issues, but also adults with mental health issues and also learning difficulties. We work with local community groups and also local third sector organisations and colleges as well. Each of the businesses supports each other with regard financial support, opportunities, equipment, materials, all supporting the core function of the central business and the central idea of people, animals, planet, profit and food. We've got a huge number of examples of how we support nature on the farm. I'm just going to, all this information will be available going forward, I'm sure, and also there's lots more information on our website. But just a few practical examples of what we do to build soil. We use holistic planned grazing, moving our cattle every day onto fresh pasture to build soil and to feed our cattle. Our arable ground, as I mentioned before, we have wide buffer strip around the outside where we plant with annual and perennial wildflower seeds and pollinators. Our arable crops are mixed, and so there's no so it's a mixed grains, so that we don't have to use any herbicides, because the different grains and grasses actually do the work for suppressing unwanted species. We then feed our animal. We don't use any tillage, so no ploughing, or the only shallow tillage we do is to break up any top pan after we use animals to actually do the
30 seconds, Ian.
Okay, moving on. So pasture, we plant lots of woodlands. We hold water behind the landscape. We've got lots of wetlands that we've created and added to. We are not against the use of technology. And we like to move towards a circular economy, using the outputs of one system as an input for the next. Thank you. Whistle stop tour. Usually that talk takes about an hour and a half. So yeah, come back to me if anyone wants to see more information. Thank you.
Thanks, Ian. That's fantastic. Glenn, you should have been made co-host. If you would like to share your screen, then you can. Would you please take over?
Sorry, phone's going mad here. Hi, I'm Glenn Lloyd, and I'm very sorry I haven't prepared very much for today's meeting. Can you hear me? Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, so I'm Glenn Lloyd. I'm from Daisybank Dairy and Gate Farm in mid Wales. I just want to say a bit starstruck to listen to Ian. He's certainly been a very big inspiration for what I'm trying to do, and I can certainly see where he started saying about taking on the family farm, and the farm being an upland dairy farm, organic farm, was certainly going down an angle that I wasn't really comfortable with. Not only for the nature side of it, but also financially, as far as the industrialization of the dairy farm and also neighbours. So that's where I took the helm in 2000. Well, I left college in, where were we, 2011, carried on farming for a few years. And the idea then was we were basically taking on a farm with my father in partnership that wasn't essentially making money. It was going down a route of pushing for more yields, and anyway, a long story short, it ended up, it was not profitable, and we needed to get bigger or get out. And then that's when I spun it all on its head and made the decision to get off the hamster wheel, convert the farm into organic, and make and farm more with the land and the animals, rather than fighting against it using chemicals and sprays and fertilizers and every other rep that comes up the lane. So basically, by going organic, we've taken the control back into our hands, rather than all the fancy cars that come up the drive trying to sell us stuff. So we convert to organic. We sell our milk to Omsco, which is organic cooperative based in Somerset, which is great. They're a really good team of people to work with. But then we found that there was, as pressures were coming on, Brexit and other things, there was pressure coming on our price, and it found that we were fighting the commodity markets again, of being told what price we're being paid for our products, and it wasn't sitting right on the fact that we were doing all these things to improve the environment, improve the soils, improve the grassland, healthier cows, the bee populations on the farm through all sorts of different management, but it was being exported to other parts of the country or even other parts of the world. And following on from watching people like Ian on Bourne Mackie and these other people that we've seen, we wanted to attach a brand to what we were doing and be able to sell our product locally and tell that story for us locally. So we've done that through Daisybank Dairy, through various vending machines. We're also supplying a few milkmen, all in glass bottles, so there's no use of plastic and things like that. So that's where the big change came. As far as going back to the farming side of things, we've seen a huge change, and my father's still farming alongside me now, although he is. And he's been very, his eyes, we haven't changed any breeding of cows, but we've just changed the breeding of, well, I suppose the farming practices, the grasses that we grow, and I'm just pushing for a healthier soil to grow a healthier plant, and in turn, through herbal grazings, things like chicory, plantain, and lots of clover, we've actually been able to turn our quite intensive dairy system 6 or 8 years ago into a fully organic system that is now definitely more efficient as far as commercial is concerned, but also better for the environment around it. And we're now 100% antibiotic free, as well as not using any sprays or fertilizers on our farm. So the health of our farm through its soil is now pushing through to the health of our animals, and that's what we're trying to get across, of that circular motion of if we've got a healthier farm, which is a healthier environment for animals, which in turn is healthier for our customers that are buying our milk. And I think that's the key for us, is that we can put our name on our product and be confident that we know that this product is healthy, and it is done in the most environmentally friendly way possible for us, but also on a commercial level, that it's actually be creating money for us as a family to be sustainable on our farm, and we don't have to double, triple, quadruple in size and have dairy cows in all the time, and then creating all sorts of other problems. So that's where we've gone. We've taken a lot of different management changes.
30 seconds.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh. We've done all sorts of management changes. We're paddock grazing. We're 100% grassland. We're adopting into no-till and reseeding policies to not plough. We're working with the Seven Rivers Trust on increasing soil carbon. We're also working on rainwater harvesting all our rainwater and then using that for our livestock and our dairies, and by using so it answers a lot of questions on certain people on livestock production. We're actually harvesting what we've got. New things, we're working on new projects on growing more legumes, on pulling more carbon and putting into the soil. Is that me? Am I out? Or, hello? Lovely.
Glenn, thank you very much. Dan, you should have been set up as co-host now if you're ready to take over. Dan, you need to take yourself off mute.
I should know that by now. Well, thank you. I've started my own stopwatch, so I'll try and keep to 5 minutes. Well, you know, we're a bit different, I guess. We're a local business. Well, I'm involved with a number of businesses that I run. One is in consulting, one is in publishing, and one is in events, all related to the food industry. We employ local people. I employ local people. I live locally in Mid Wales, but we work. These are small businesses, but we work globally in the food. Well, we work with food retailers and suppliers in a global market. Just example of two of our websites. The Insight Research website is all about strategy workshops. Online, all online now for the time being. A big part of our focus has been looking at electrification, what's called the energy transition in the industry. That's probably been where I've spent most of my time the last 3 years. Awful lot of time in Norway looking at how that's working out and what's happening here, beginning to happen here and in other countries as well. On the publishing side, the other website there, Global Convenience Store Focus. Convenience really means small retail, small shops. That's all about publishing, and it has a very big global reach. I mean, we're breaking all our records every month with the number of viewers we get. The biggest, so I guess probably for a company around here, that's quite an unusual Google Analytics slide, just looking at where we get our viewers. But our biggest market is the UK in terms of online viewers for our publishing site. But next after that is the US, and India has really come up the sort of the numbers to be our third biggest market now, which took us all by surprise when it happened this last 6 months. So we have quite a big global reach for what we do. The other part of the business was in events up until March last year. I was doing events all over the world. I'm no longer doing. Our team are no longer doing events all over the world. We've moved our whole business online. So we got a platform called Shop Talk Live, which went from 0 to 71 countries in 6 months. And this is just a slide from you can see what the studio looks like for that. It's all run on the Zoom platform. So it's been great because we haven't got to travel any longer, and we can still run an events business. So, you know, that was just great in so many ways, really. from a personal and business perspective. I suppose I'm changing what I'm going to say a little bit based upon what I've heard and make it perhaps a bit more relevant. I suppose I spent 25 years working with retailers in different markets around the world and looking at their strategies and how they've developed. And I think one of the big things that's going on in the world generally in all markets is we're moving to a world of I think there's a big shift happening to a world of smaller food producers again, and there's a huge opportunities for those smaller producers, and some of those producers are doing are going after those opportunities. And obviously, I think it's early days yet, but it's something which I think is very exciting. And just as an example, I mean, this is 7-Eleven is one of the biggest retailers globally in the small store sector, or as the convenience sector, as I call it in my job. This is in Denmark. They've designed a new store. This is, if you like, the kind of Starbucks-like look and feel of a new 7-Eleven store. But the secret of their success with their strategy has been based upon developing relationships with small food producers who often have a whole different ethic to the way they operate their business and produce their products, and also talk about their products online. It's a very important aspect of the success of these small producers. And the secret of their success actually has been in building, in growing these small producers with a whole different approach, a much higher quality product, and also a more sustainable product for their customers. And this is an example of one of the owners of one of those small businesses, in this case, the Protein Kitchen based in Copenhagen. And these are some of their products. And it's a bit of a revolution for the small store industry. And I think just it's an interesting anecdote perhaps to share. I mean, I think the other thing is, of course, when businesses try a new strategy and it produces a lot of success, they tend to do more of it, and other businesses, other retailers copy. And just as the final slide, this has been a tremendously successful strategy for 7-Eleven in Denmark, and obviously a lot of other retailers around the world are seeing that, and it's happening in this country and in other countries as well. And there is a big opportunity for small food producers to grow, and obviously when they grow, they try and stay in touch with their roots and operate in the same kind of way. It's almost as if I'm just listening to two great examples, Daisy Bank Dairy and Trevlock Farm, who I've sort of known about. It's very interesting to meet you both. But I think I guess one thing that why is this going to happen? Why is it going to become more important? I think the crucial factors are almost entrepreneurship, because that's always the case with businesses. You have to be entrepreneur, and then how you communicate what you do, and it's all got to be based upon honesty. In terms of, because I think the only way to communicate these days, particularly through social media, is where the story is true. And because otherwise the consumer will find you out, and that's why a lot of consumers,
Dan.
Almost finished. That's why lots of consumers will shift away from the larger suppliers, because they just can't do that. Thanks very much.
Okay, we're going to be moving to Adele now. Adele, if you'd like to take yourself off mute, and I'll start to share your screen.
Hi, you know what? This is so inspiring, all this. I'm really also wondering if I should just rip up my script. Am I on? Have I started? Oh, I have.
Yes, you are. Yep.
Can I ask you? Oh, this is. Can you go with me on something and just try something out? This is purely theoretical. Could you think back to what you were interested in when you were about 7? That's me. When I was 7, I liked grubbing around in the woods on my own. I didn't know that I was foraging back then, and I'm still quite suspicious of the word. I had an uncle, my Uncle Dave, who was absolutely brilliant, and we used to go finding tiddlers along the drain bank, and occasionally he would pick me up. I would have been probably even younger then. He'd chuck me over a wall and say, go get some of that over there, and I'd go get whatever it was, and then he'd meet me around the front of the wall and we'd go home. And I realized later that I was scrumping. So it was I was kind of being used to gather various probably top quality ingredients from the gardens of the local vicar. So I don't think we change much from being 7, and I think especially in a group like this, I suspect we're all quite innovative, possibly a little bit wary of authority. I don't know if this is correct. This is me just guessing from my own experience, that I think we tend to attract like-minded people. So I don't know if I already said that I'm from Brecon Beacons Foraging. I used to be in the music industry. Before that, I was a musician. I came to Wales to see a band called Jess in 1994 and just fell in love with Wales. So immediately that I decided to move here, and I moved here 10 days after coming here for the first time ever. We had a recording studio, and because I'm really interested in food of all kinds, I decided that given that we were a 30-mile round trip from the nearest, where you're going to buy a pint of milk, I decided I would cook wild food and feed it to these people who couldn't get out of the premises, basically, because we're quite a long way away. I'm rambling like mad. What I'm trying to say is that I feel very lucky that I seem to have been able to run my life according to the things that I'm interested in, which are largely music and the natural world, and I think they're both inextricably linked. So I have a micro business called Brecon Beacons Foraging. This came about because I wrote this book here. It's called the Hedgerow Handbook. This was launched at the Hay Festival in 2012. And as part of the launch, I was asked to do a guided walk. So I said, yeah, that'd be really great. It was a free but ticketed event, and we had 65 people turn up on the first ever walk that I'd given out, which is a bit of a baptism of fire. And what I realised then on that first ever walk that I'd done was it wasn't about foraging at all. It wasn't. Every time I take people out, they think they're going out to go foraging, but they're not. What I'm doing is I'm giving them permission to be outside. So it might be a really loosely defined general purpose, but really what people want to do is to be told that they're allowed to go outside and be a 7-year-old again. And that's what I do, really. As part of what I do, I just made a little list of things that I've ended up doing. So foraging, obviously. I teach in schools and other organisations. I do land surveys for people if they're looking to, maybe grow wild plants, which seems to be more and more popular. I'm also a writer, and I do writing and writing workshops. I did a couple of other books as well. I've got the Garden Forager here. Foraging with Kids. This is the first ever book that was written after my experiences of taking out families and children and seeing the hunger for this kind of information. It took me 4 years to find a publisher for this book, because they were all saying, oh, well, maybe what if somebody dies? They're not going to die. And I also noticed when I did get a deal for this, it was like wildfire. It sells really, really fast. And I think there is a real hunger for people to want to be able to get out there. Other things
30 seconds.
Yeah, wow. Other things that I ended up doing is cooking with wild food, various workshop, public appearances. I'm a forest bathing practitioner, bonkers about trees. I'm in the Association of Foragers, which is about good practice, and we're also putting together some accredited foraging courses, because there's an awful lot of misinformation out there, which we want to set a benchmark for good practice. I feel incredibly lucky. Being outdoors is my happy place. I would really rather be outside right now, with respect. But thank you very, very much for including me here. There's so much more I think we have to talk about, and thanks to you guys for putting this all together. This is not the environment which most of us would really want to be in, I think, in front of a screen, but I think you've done a cracking job of getting some really interesting people together that I hope I'll be able to speak to more later. Thanks for including me.
Thank you, Adele, and I hope that the slides weren't too mismanaged. If they were, then I apologize.
I was so nervous I didn't even look at them, to be honest.
Fair enough. Okay, now that we're over to Howard Davis, please.
Thank you, Nicholas. I'll just try and find the right screen. Can everyone see that? Okay, great. Just let me work out how I do this properly. Hang on a second. Sorry. You'd think after so many years of doing this, I'd be able to do this instantaneously, but that's not the case at all. Bear with me, please. Oh. Okay, so I'm going to flick through these one at a time because it's going to be easier for me to work these. But can everyone see the slides, at least in the main part of the screen? Thank you. So for the next 5 minutes, I want to focus on the relationship between high quality landscapes and the economy, not necessarily worry too much about whether it's designated an AONB or national park. Most of the value of an AONB is actually derived from the quality of the landscape itself, not the designation. So those of you that have got a good view of what it is that I'm sharing on my screen, this is the Dee Valley. Some of you may recognize it. Apart from the topography itself, the landscape you see is almost entirely a product of human endeavor. The uplands still reference the earlier Bronze Age landscapes of open moorland, old tracks and burial mounds. And on top of this is layered an Iron Age landscape with clearly defined hill forts. Many of them are still really clearly visible on hilltops. Then there's the vast legacy left by the Middle Ages, including old roads, castles, abbeys, and the medieval field systems that we associate with these landscapes. On top of this, we've got a more recent sort of layer of industry. The moorlands of Ruaben Mountain managed for grouse shooting, the mosaic of small woodlands that would have provided the small timber needed for the local economy, including firewood, hand tools, carts, wheels, charcoal, you name it, and building materials. And the predominant industry of agriculture, whether that be upland sheep production or dairy and arable, a little bit lower down. In relatively recent history, we see the development of tourism, including camping, caravanning, canoeing, and the shift of land ownership from private ownership to charity. Right in the centre of this picture, we've got Pennacoid, a woodland that's owned and managed by the Woodland Trust. Okay, thank you, Nicholas. I think hopefully people can see that. My point is that much of the rural economic activity has been at a scale and pace designed to fit within the natural systems that support it. With the marked exception of trees in the uplands, the natural environment regenerated as quickly as it was utilised. Woodlands were managed on rotation and soils were replenished by natural fertilisers at the rate nutrients were removed. Can we move on to the next slide, please, Nicholas, if you can do that? Thank you. This is, many of you will recognise, including Jim, a photo of the Ogwen Valley. The nature of the notion of nature conservation didn't really take hold till the mid-19th century. Before that, we had reference to nature preserves, but these were primarily for hunting. So the notion of nature conservation was really as a compensatory mechanism. And Cwmidwell on the right is the first national nature reserve that appeared in Wales in the 1950s. But this separation of nature, conservation and business, rural economics, was central to driving the mindset that currently exists that separates business and nature, this disconnect. If we can flick forward, Nicholas, if that's all right. But clearly, and this is a view of a hill above Llangollen, everything in that wonderful landscape is entirely the product of economic endeavour at the local level. There's a clear interdependent relationship between land stewardship, natural beauty, community, and economic growth. So we know that well-managed landscapes offer a wealth of natural assets that serve as the foundation of rural businesses, including agricultural land, woodland, recreation, culture, sporting opportunities, and so on. And these can still drive nature-friendly business. And what I wanted to do, coming towards the end of this talk, was really just focus on some of the things that we've done in the past as a charity. So go back to these areas of land that we are responsible for looking after, albeit in partnership with landowners. We've documented the value of landscape through A1B management plans. We've generated compelling narratives around these landscapes that tourism businesses can use. We've supported businesses through direct funding, all of these things that you'd associate with landscape designations. All of this is good stuff, but it doesn't actually work. It doesn't actually work at the scale and pace that's required to address the issues. We really require transformative systemic change, and this is really exciting. And the most important thing that we've found that we've done is build collaborative skills across the network, help people understand that the rural environment is a complex system, help people understand how they work better with other people, develop big visions, and respectfully defer to no one. And the final point, apart from all the stuff that we've done in the past, the thing that we're finding most valuable is using art as a mechanism to help people connect with nature. And we know the work that we've been doing with the University of Derby has led us to a position where we understand that 70% of people that make an emotional connection to nature go on to exhibit pro-environmental behaviour, whereas only 7% of people that make a connection with nature that isn't emotional go on to exhibit pro-environmental behaviour. So that's the normal learning that we talk about. So if we can have my final slide, please, really briefly. Thank you. Welsh Government, as you know, has just announced an intention to prioritise strengthening the foundational economy. This places a perfect spot for nature-based businesses to take things forward. These landscapes are dependent on nature-friendly businesses coming together as a movement, collaborating effectively, and driving the real transformational change that's necessary with whatever tools we have in the collective toolbox. So as a charity, I leave that as an open invitation to engage. Thanks very much, Irene, Steve and Nicholas.
Thank you, Howard. Okay, Sean, you should have received co-host, so you're free to share your screen.
I'm going
to be speaking through the medium of Welsh. I hope people can hear either myself or Heledd, the interpreter, in the background. Can you please do a thumbs up if you can hear me and indicate somehow? Fantastic. Thank you, Steve, Irene, and everybody for this morning. It's been an extremely interesting morning, and it's truly been inspiring to listen to everyone. I feel that I've taken the short straw and wrapping things up, but this is certainly not the case. So for the next 5 minutes, I'm just going to take you through the Summit to Sea project very quickly and how this whole notion of reconnecting the economy with nature and natural processes is a strong theme in our work. So who am I? I'm Sian Stacey. This is me in the middle in my natural habitat on Barziane Island, where I was a warden for 3 years, and then in a less natural setting, though still enjoyable, I worked with the Arwain project, meant at a business with the Wales Food and Drink Conference before COVID. I also work covering Mid Wales as a development officer for Summit to Sea. So what is Summit to Sea? Well, in a nutshell, It goes through a co-design process to create a vision and a future for Mid Wales where nature and people prosper from the summit down to the sea in Ceredigion Bay. As we've just heard from Howard, we need to make a true difference to future generations as we face the biodiversity and climate crisis. So this is the project area. This is where we focus on, but we have a sketch from Steve himself also showing you the whole array of different things happening within this area. RSPB Cymru conduct this project, and currently there are 5 other partners involved with the project, and the program, Endangered Landscapes program, funds the project. So why use a co-design process? Well, we go through a co-design process to take things beyond engagement. We want to collaborate with everyone who has an interest in our interventions, where nature, people, and the local economy prosper. Co-design strengthens networks between people impacted by problems and trying to come up with solutions to these problems. And one of the main principles of co-design is that everybody is an expert of their own experience, so everybody can participate in the project. This slide shows you very quickly what our process is, and every step of the way we reach out to people and ask for their input, and we ensure that plenty of people are part of the process. So we've already held a number of online workshops, unfortunately. Of course, I'd rather be sitting in Locator having a cup of tea with people and chatting to them, but we've held virtual events. We have identified 4 main themes stemming from these events. The sustainable production systems, the second theme, linkages with habitats full of wildlife. The third theme is to reconnect people with nature. But the 4th theme is the most relevant to people today on this call, this whole notion of reconnecting or relinking the local or the rural economy with nature. So we are reliant on natural resources, but sometimes we cannot realize all these benefits in terms of the economy and also natural systems. We have lost biodiversity. For example, large supply chains, remote systems, and large supermarkets. There are new opportunities developing all the time to rebuild supply chains locally and rebuilding the links between nature and businesses. And today has been an example, a perfect example of the work that's already happening. These need to develop naturally and to recognize the worth of local entrepreneurs, micro initiatives that produce and that generate new products, benefiting nature. This is one of the main challenges, but it gives us a great opportunity. And we have a high percentage of people in the area who rely on natural resources for their living. We have examples, as we've heard today, farmers, but also photographers, open air organizers, beekeepers, mountain biking businesses, and this has really shown the breadth of businesses that we have. This, I'm sorry, could somebody please ask Shan to slow down? That would be fantastic. I'm sorry, the interpreter is kindly asking the speaker to slow down. If somebody could ask Shan to slow down, that would be fantastic.
Sean,
I beg your pardon.
I apologise. Would there be any chance of you slowing down a little bit, please? The interpreter's struggling to keep up with you.
Okay, na cychwyn o'r fatha pwynt ola na. O'n i'n ymwybodol am y 5 munud.
As aware that I had 5 minutes, so I beg your pardon. So perhaps we can have 10 minutes in Welsh. But one of the greatest challenges, but also what affords us the most opportunities is in this area, there's such a high percentage of people in the area who rely on natural resources for their living. We've heard from many of you today. Of course, there are more prominent examples, for example, fishermen and farmers, but also photographers, open air businesses, beekeepers, mountain biking businesses, and tourism providers. We've talked to many of them already, and it's been excellent to have the opportunity to listen to you today in your talks. I'm very happy to sit down with you and talk to you at any time. So, just to conclude, if you're a business working in the area, do join our co-design team and join our workshops. We'll have a number of events over the coming months, and we truly hope that it'll be possible for us to meet in the outdoors or indeed in a cafe in the area very soon. Thank you so much for listening. Massive thanks to Helen for keeping up with me. Apologies for speaking too quickly to try and fit everything in the 5-minute slot. And I have my contact details on the screen, and I'll try and remember to include a link to our questionnaire in the chat. And this questionnaire is still open for people to take part in if they'd like to. Thank you.
Wonderful. Diolch yn fawr iawn. And thank you to everybody who's talked. Huge amount of material that we've uncovered there, that we've talked about. We've got a little bit of time. Has anybody got any comments or questions? I mean, various things have come up through the chat, which I hope people have been able to see. But any questions? Sarah, Gilda.
Hi, I just thought I'd butt in. I know I haven't got a minute. I'm not a business or an organisation. I've done a lot of work with Irene and Steve over the last 10 or 12 years, and currently doing a little bit with them for nearly wild. I live just over the border in Shropshire, on the edge of the Shropfield AONB. Myself and my partner own a disused quarry, got about 10 acres. It was derelict. There was some emerging woodland on it when we bought it 5 or 6 years ago. We've been trying to open it up and increase the biodiversity. There's a lot of hazel and alder. So last year we started producing the charcoal on a very small scale, looking at the use of biochar. So yeah, very interested in the local food supply chains and stuff. Did a little bit of work with a group in and around Montgomery, no Glen from there, Daisy Bank. So yes, that's just a little introduction to me, and I just want to say it's been really interesting today, listening to everybody. Lots of small micro businesses, but together, obviously forming that bigger picture for making those bigger changes. That's it, really.
Wonderful. Anybody else? It's almost like I think we've heard so much, we don't quite know where to start. As Hazel's just put in the chat, fantastic speakers all. I think that, I've heard a number of recurring themes through this, and I will do a little bit when we finish off, just to talk about the sort of, I suppose, the big things that I've heard. But one of the things that has come up time and again, sort of through these speakers is, and through the comments, is about the value of us businesses together. And the potential strength we've got there, but also, what we can learn from one another, potentially what we could do together as businesses. So we thought that it might just be interesting, in fact, as we've got the question, how do we even move forward as a possible group? We had a question lined up, which if we could just get Nicholas going again on the Mentimeter. What we would like to ask you is, what can we as nature-friendly businesses do together to increase sales? I think you all know what to do, but I'll hand it over at this point to Nicholas.
Okay, if you've still got the Mentimeter tab open that you used last time, once you've submitted, then you can click forward onto the next onto the next slide. And the next slide is this one. What can we as nature-friendly businesses do together to increase sales? Some of you have been very keen and have noticed that I left the Mentimeter open and have already put in your comments. But if you've got any other comments, please feel free to put those in now. 14 out of the 32 have contributed so far. Would anybody else like to contribute? Okay, I'll leave that one open in the background for a little bit longer. Irene, if you'd like to take back over, but just so that everybody's aware, we've got one more slide to come up on Mentimeter towards the end, so please don't close it down if you felt like it. Over to you.
Wonderful. Yeah, thanks everybody for that. There's one particular one which struck me from what people said is, do we actually want to increase sales? A very good question, and it's certainly one of the things that has really struck us in the work that we've been doing over the last year is that the point that Steve made early on about businesses being micro is that they're not, a lot of businesses aren't trying to follow a growth model. Actually, it's about being really robust at doing what they do, and that works. So yeah, interesting to see a similar point coming up there. What I just wanted to do was pull out some of the, I suppose, standout messages or things that I've heard. I'm not certain they'd be the same as the ones you've heard, but certainly from my point of view, hugely useful, interesting to hear these things. These aren't in any particular order. I'll start off with networking. You know, clearly the fact we've been able to come together today and that people are appreciating this and saying we want to do more of it, you know, there is this importance of networking, not just to know who else is out there, but obviously that's useful, but for learning, you know, to share ideas, look at what practical tools and things there are out there, even looking at working together. What else have I got on my list? I've written down opportunities between nature activists. All of us here, by the sounds of things, one way or another, are following our passions. And that means that we not only want to introduce people to nature, connect people to nature, but we also want people to take action for nature. You know, I think what I'm hearing is that in lots of different ways, these are businesses which are driving change, which brings me to this point about businesses. What I've been hearing through this is that this way of doing business works. You know, it does make commercial sense. And what people have been talking about is they've been demonstrating entrepreneurship, innovation, and it's that sort of approach which is helping to make that business work. Alongside, I think the stuff that we've all had to learn over this last year is about being flexible, about variety. What else have I written down in my list? Yes, flexibility and variety, two big words there. And we've seen that flexibility, you know, at least two of the businesses talking about how they've moved online in this last year. Those are, I suppose, sort of some of the really big things that came across to me. It is a really big question about where we go next with all of this. I'm going to hand over to Steve, who is going to talk a little bit about this. And hopefully we can find ways that we can all keep in touch. And of course, if you've got any questions, you know, either in relation to what I've said, what everyone else has said, please put it in the chat, because we will take this and mull over it and take action from that. Steve.
Great, thanks very much. Yeah, fascinating range of things going on there. I've been writing all sorts of notes while we've been talking as well. Just a couple of thoughts just to share with you. This one about whether a business wants to grow or whether we want to increase markets or marketing. Can I suggest that individual businesses may not always want to grow, because it's about economic resilience. It's about choosing the size of the business that works for you. But if the sector of nature-friendly businesses increases, then we take a bigger market share and we collectively have a bigger impact on nature. So the point should be more about growth of the types of business rather than necessarily saying every business has to grow, because obviously that would be totally inappropriate for many people and what they're trying to achieve. There's quite a lot of stuff been going on through the chat, so I'll try and cover off just how we see some of this going forward. Apologies for the online locator. I have, while we've been on this, been in touch with the tech, and he's found what the issue is and assures me that it should be dealt with by the end of the day. So it was to do with one thing just not being switched on, which, needless to say, there's always something. Anyway, so yeah, we'll get that locator up and rolling. In terms of all the information and so on from today, today's recording and all the other work that we've been developing, we're putting on a set of resources, which is currently hosted on Nearly Wild's resources page. Our next stage is actually to make that much easier to find, just give you a very direct link to a resource space where all of the information that we've been developing is available to you. There's already on there various things to do, like YouTube interviews with a number of the businesses that have attended today. I think there's over 35, I think possibly now, interviews on there. So there's a lot of resource already available. But what we want to do now is to really focus in on pulling together this sort of Mid-Wales learning and make sure that's easy to find. The locator, the directorial locator, the purpose of that, as I said, is to both enable us to find each other. It's got a map and everything, so it's very easy to find people. But it's also to act as a promotion tool. As I think I mentioned in the chat, we did over 1,400 interviews the year before last with the public, and about 95% of people said they cannot find what they're looking for. So we may all think we're very good at telling people, but the bottom line is the public isn't finding us. What we are now doing as well is I've set up an online network, because, as I said, we found this problem with the Facebook group, people not seeing stuff because of the way the algorithms work. So we'll make sure that everybody here on this call and all the others who've been, I mean, there's literally about 200-300 businesses that we've been in touch with. We've interviewed well over 40. We'll make sure that all that information is available to you. You know where to find things, you know where these links are. So please keep an eye out for those emails in the next week or so. It'll give you all of the links to all of that. And I'll make sure that the front page of the website keeps a link to the easiest place to find things while we're doing the next stage of development. The other thing I wanted to mention is, as some of you know, Irene and I both worked, and a number of people actually on the call have worked on various international sustainability standards, and I've actually worked with the International Body for Sustainability Standards. And the problem with a lot of the standards is they're really complicated, they're very audit heavy. So we've designed a very simple, sort of almost self-check tool that people can use just to see how nature friendly are you. And we've got a beta version of that I'm hoping will go live in the next couple of weeks. So again, I'll make sure that that's available for people to have a bit of a look and feel on the web resource stuff. Gosh, what else? Yeah, the final thing is we've got some up and coming Zoom calls which are around key topic areas. So one around how can business, third sector and public sector work better together, particularly around this nature-friendly economy. Secondly, what are the grant funders doing to support the kind of nature-based, nature-friendly part of the economy? And the third is insights into new market opportunities. So hopefully those are three key topics that have come out from some of the discussions so far, which we can try and respond to. And then hopefully as that develops and we're doing more of these sorts of activities, collectively, we can start to identify what next. But that should give us all, hopefully, plenty to get on with. Please do email us if you have anything else, because obviously we're run out of time. So do email if you have other things you want to feed in. Thank you.
And then Nicholas has already put up our last Menti thing is we would really like to get some feedback from you as to how you found this event. Menti is going to turn it all into a lovely word cloud. So would really appreciate just your last bit of activity on this. Apart from that, just like to say, diolch yn fawr iawn. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming and for taking part, for expressing yourselves so well in really quite short time. What we wanted to do was hopefully hold an event that was really useful, but actually not take over the whole of your life and give you time to get on with other things today. As Steve says, do get in touch. You have our email addresses or via the website. Thank you.